Another development in AI news, or I guess AI space, is TikTok has this new AI powered filter, which is called their bold glamour filter. Now, I know that you're not on TikTok. You know, you're not a TikToker. You're not doing any dances or anything, but it's making headlines because it's almost like an evolution in terms of face filters. Now, filters were, I guess, popularized by Snapchat. I don't think anyone was doing them. I'm sure people were doing them before, but I'd say at least that's where filters became mainstream. Now, what's different about this bold glamour filter is it's likely using generative adversarial networks, which is fancy term for a type of AI. And what's, I guess, so revolutionary about this is it shows how AI powered tools can make face transformations harder to detect and even better at transforming how people actually look. Now, typically with filters, you know, you point the camera at your face and it takes a 2D image of your face and it maps it out into an exaggerated 3D model. So it looks at your face and says, okay, the shadows are this way around their nose, it's this way around their cheeks. So because the shadows fall this way, we are estimating this is the shape of their face. So when we apply the filter, it's to this estimated 3D model. So when you do things like if you move your face or if there's something slightly blocking your face, the filter will kind of warp and glitch out and it won't work properly. Or sometimes the filter will be like sideways on your face, right? This new generative adversarial network is different because you can have your hand in front of your face, can touch your eyebrows, your forehead, whatever, and it's not going to affect how this filter is applied to you. So it actually looks like this is how your face looks. Right now, it's not something like a cat face or a dog face right now, which is how Snapchat became so popular. It's sort of it's a beauty filter. It's called bold glamour. So it does things like it makes your eyebrows more defined. It puckers your lips. It makes you look like you have a bigger smile when you're smiling. It's contouring your face, and it almost looks like it's putting makeup on some people, and some people it's restructuring their face. But it's not a typical filter where if you move or you tilt the camera a certain way, it's just going to glitch out and stop working. It looks like it's your face, and this is kind of like I don't know. It's almost like an inflection point when you look at the digital landscape and how we're representing ourselves, right? Because typically, if someone puts a filter on, you can say, okay, yeah, that's definitely a filter. And if unless they stand the perfect way, then the filter's not going to work. Or if they're having a conversation with you, right? You can't be on FaceTime or you can't be having a video conversation or Zoom with someone with a filter on because it's going to be very obvious once they move, the filter's not going to work. But we're kind of getting to a point, and this is just a small example on TikTok, but if it's possible on TikTok, then it's possible anywhere, really. You could be having a conversation on Zoom, and this generative adversarial network filter is being applied to them and they look like someone completely different, and it's not glitching, it's not warping, it's not distorted. You will have no idea what this person actually looks like with the possibility of these type of filters. Right now, I'm not sure if you've seen this. As I said, you're not on TikTok, but I guess what are your thoughts on this advancement in filter technology, right? Because just to, I guess, take it back a generation, when you look at games like, World of Warcraft or Eve Online or just, these mass online games, you could represent yourself however you want, right? I mean, you could be an elf, you could be a troll, you could be a human, you could be a male and have a female character, you could be a female and have a male character, and you don't, no one knows what you actually look like. But, I'm saying in the real world here, in quotes, in the real world, when you see someone, that's okay, this is the person. This is this is what they actually look like. But pretty soon we could get to a point where, thanks to these generative adversarial networks and this advancement in filter technology, you could be looking at someone on a video chat and think this is the actual person I'm talking to and it's nothing like them. But I guess what are your thoughts on this advancement in filters technology, and have you seen any examples of this yet?
I haven't seen any examples of this particular thing, but I have seen like filters being used in the past to make people look completely different. And I know what you're saying. Like in the past, even for like a person to look like a completely different person, they were really restricted in how they could move. If they moved too fast, the filter would kind of disappear, or the software that was tracking their face would break, and all of a sudden you see the person behind the mask, kind of a thing. So the idea of this being a more uh, better tracking, just a much more impressive version of that makes sense. I haven't seen it at all, but I could absolutely picture it in my mind of what it could be, and it's one of those things where, as much as I don't use Snapchat or TikTok or any of these things, I always hear about these filters and how people are really interested in them, and even like people making animated versions of themselves, or even VTubers who have exploded in what felt like a very short amount of time. There's always this kind of, I guess, push for people to have more creative ways of expressing themselves on the internet because it's possible. So yeah, I think this is kind of an interesting thing, and I imagine it's going to be really profitable for TikTok, of maybe fighting back some of the competition of what YouTube has been doing by saying, hey, you can be a creator and you don't actually have to look like you, which one could be great for privacy, but two could also just be another fun option, kind of like what Snapchat did with filters. Like I can't remember how many times someone, I'd be in the car with someone and they point their phone at you and be like, hey, look what this app can do to your face, and like people got a lot of enjoyment out of it. So yeah, TikTok taking that to another step, I can imagine people are going to have a lot of fun. And then, it just goes to the thing of like, yeah, if it's on the internet, it's not real life, right? It's always going to be an interpretation or an exaggeration of what it is. And yeah, it just makes sense for TikTok to kind of exploit that as much as possible. As an old person, to me, it's kind of creepy, and in some cases a little weird, but also kind of fun. So yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing overall. Is this something that you're excited to get using? I don't know if you use TikTok at all, but is this something that you're excited to use in the future?
Uh, Definitely not excited to use it in the future. Definitely not. I've sent you a link.
Mm,
I want you to watch this, and we're gonna see what you think about it. I'll
okay.
include the link in the show notes, and then afterwards, I'll dive into the rabbit hole of my thoughts around this. But yeah,
Mm.
check out the video.
Yeah, I'm watching it right now. Hmm. Okay, so I watched a bit of the video, and it's funny. It isn't as surprising to me as maybe you might think. Um, so I've been using Huawei phones and Xiaomi phones for a while now. And this video is actually really funny. Um, for some reason, these phones have the weird default option of like this beautify mode when you take a picture, and it's just really weird looking, and it's designed for specific markets where they want people want to look a certain way in their selfies and stuff like that. And I don't take pictures a lot, so it's not something that I notice. But like I remember one time I had to take a picture for a work ID, and I used my phone, and the picture that came out of it was the most shocking thing. I was like, that's not me. So yeah, this is something I've definitely had experience with. I will say this: it kind of it it doesn't look real. It looks like maybe someone is just wearing a ton of makeup, but it definitely has a digital aspect to it. I definitely think this is going to get a lot better over time. But the
Mhm.
one thing I will say is that I could also see why people would want to use this. And I don't know. I haven't watched the entire video yet, but I wouldn't be surprised. And you can let me know if you feel better about this, or worse about this, or how you feel about this overall. But I kind of expect it to be a situation where you can look like a completely different person, because these changes are pretty drastic, but there's still the person behind it. I'm kind of curious to see when we get like the full on, when we get VTubers who look like actual people.
Mhm.
And you're a completely different person. You're just essentially voice acting that at that point, which I'm not gonna lie, for some people it could probably be a lot of fun.
So, uh, I've heard of I've seen the filters that Huawei and Xiaomi, those type of phones apply to people. I've seen those before where you can, make your lips bigger or smaller or cheekbones high. I've seen all of that stuff before. So yeah, this is very similar to that.
Mm.
My problem, or where I see this being problematic, and this is sort of like a broader conversation about just where the internet is going in general. And I put this down as a possible topic idea, but I didn't really want to talk about it. So I guess it's kind of interesting that we're coming back to it now. So recently in the news, or this video going around, this lady thought she was married to Omarion. Now, if, I don't know, depending on how old people are, they might not know who Omarion was. He's a singer from this group B2K in like the 2000s, boy band. He's a pretty popular guy.
Mm.
This lady thought she was married to him because she was having text conversations with someone who said they were Omarion. She had never met him. This person said that they were Omarion. They'd bought a ring. They couldn't give her the ring yet because she never met them in person. And they weren't allowed to meet because their manager, Omarion's manager, wanted her to pay $3,000 in order to meet him. So she, in her mind, thought that she was married to Omarion. I think she paid like $300 to be in his fan club for whatever reason. When you're married to someone, you need to pay to be in their fan club. And she was contemplating paying $3,000 in order to meet the person she's supposed to be married to. And her friend was like, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm bringing you on Dr. Phil. We're going to expose this. And then Dr. Phil actually got Omarion like on camera to send the video and to say like, hey, just so you know, I'm not married to you. You have not been talking to me. You haven't sent money to me. For any of my fans out there, I will never ask you for money. I probably will not be texting you. If it is a valid text from Omarion, it will be, through this verified Omarion fan club number that he gave out. And he said, if you are ever talking with me, on social media, it will be from a verified account with a blue check mark. And I heard that and I was like, ooh, wait a minute. That is, I'm not going to say a very old, but that is an old sentiment in the current landscape of technology, in the current landscape of social media, right? Because one thing we've been talking about is, hey, now Twitter, you can pay for a blue check mark. Now Meta has copied them. You can pay for a blue check mark. And the conversation I was thinking of having, which I decided not to, but now we're having anyways, was there is a very big problem with paying for verification. And the fact that people can pay for verification and get a blue check mark. Because, since social media has been around, and it wasn't in the inception of social media, but for most of the time social media has been around, people associate a blue check mark with this is a trusted source, whether it's a trusted news source or just a trusted social personality, right? When Twitter originally launched their paid verification, right, we talked about all the headlines that came up because people paid $8, they got a blue check mark, and they impersonated celebrities and government officials and official news sources and spouted all kinds of nonsense, right? Now, if you look at, what we're talking about with these filters, which can make someone look a different way than they normally look, or make someone look completely different than they do. Let's say if we find the same lady again, right? She thinks she's married to Omarion just from text messages. She never spoke, didn't even speak with him on the phone. She didn't get a personalized video from him. None of that, just text messages. Let's say this person, this scammer, has a verified account on Twitter, on Instagram, because they have a blue check mark. And this is Omarion. And then they now use a more advanced version of this TikTok filter, because the filter doesn't make you into someone else yet. Right now, it's just adjusting your facial features to make you more glamorous in the eyes of TikTok or of the algorithm that they're using. But let's say we get to the point where it makes you into a completely different person. It makes you into Omarion. And then you can be having a video chat with this person looking like Omarion with a blue check mark on your verified account, yeah, the possibilities for scamming people have exponentially grown with just the blue, just just with paying for verification, and now with these advanced filters, it's yeah. I think, as you said, this technology is probably like at its infancy right now. I'm sure it's going to get better and better at changing people's faces and better at making people look like other people. So I think that there will be a lot more scams coming out where it's, I thought I was talking to this celebrity, or I thought I was giving money to this person or this organization, or I thought I was, married to Omarion because he was verified from a blue checkmark account. And I had a video chat with him and it was Omarion. It was like, look at, I recorded it. This is Omarion I'm talking to, right? So I think people are going to drastically have to change what you can and can't trust on the internet or on a digital space. Or yeah, I think it's going to change things a lot with this paid verification, with these face filters, and I'm sure it's only going to become a bigger problem from here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's the key thing, right? Of like where this could potentially go in terms of how it can be abused and used to kind of trick people. I don't know if much of that falls on TikTok though. I think that's just when you have tools, people are going to use them for nefarious kind of situations. The one thing a kind of issue I have with it right now, and I don't know if this is just my senile brain, but I find it very difficult to find people apart in the real world right now. I think people look very similar to one another because there is a trend, right, of how people want to look. And, whether it's clothes or makeup or whatever, across the board, people are looking very homogenous and very similar. And I remember this happened to me particularly. I used to work near a major mall, and I remember I went to the mall one day and everyone just looked like Kim Kardashian. And I thought this was interesting. I was like, they dressed exactly like how Kim Kardashian would look. They used the exact same shade of makeup and all this stuff. I'm like, this is really odd. These people all look exactly the same. And one thing about this filter that TikTok is using right now is that honestly, the people look very similar. Like it was erasing people's normal features to put on this filter, which is exactly what those Xiaomi and Huawei beauty mode filters do as well. It kind of erases people's, natural features and puts this generic kind of feature set on top of them of what people may want to look like. And for me, just the simplest thing, it just makes it really difficult for me to tell people apart. People just look the same to me. But then also, I think this can kind of skew, people's perceptions of how people look, which may not be the healthiest thing. And I think we have a lot of conversations, or I shouldn't say we, the public has had a lot of conversations about how potentially unhealthy TikTok can be. And maybe this just adds another rung on that of maybe TikTok isn't maybe the best app in the world. We're already seeing it being banned from Canadian government officials' phones because of potential spying. This is also something that happened in Europe, England in particular, and the US. So yeah, it's just a weird kind of situation. And for me, if someone's getting old, it just makes it really hard for me to tell people.